Hey, what's going on, everybody? I am going to start here momentarily. Let me just make sure my audio is correct and coming from the correct um, outlets here. Give me 1 second. Let's see what we got here. Fish on camera, audio settings. What's going on, guys? Just give me like 1 second here. I have this new streaming software. I've used it once. I was using Zoom for like the last 2 years, and I switched to something else. So I'm trying to get acclimated to it. All right, 1 second. There we are. Okay. Okay. Cool. So it looks like everything's connected well. All right. So this is what I'm going to go over today. First of all, thank you guys for joining. If you're joining live, if you're catching a replay, thank you for joining. I'm going to experiment with this. It's 8 o'clock Eastern time. I'm going to try to go live every day. I found that it's a lot easier for me to go live and be consistent with that rather than trying to create a video from scratch. Because, guys, I'm telling you, I'm not complaining because I love doing this. The videos I put on YouTube are like 10 minutes. They're like 10 minutes long, 10 to 20 minutes long. I'm not going to lie. Those take upwards of 4 to 5 hours to create if you're doing them from scratch, because some people outsource them if they have a team. I don't have one. Even if I did, I'd still have to create the script and everything I want to do from scratch. So anyway, all that to say is that this is more impromptu, and you guys can look over my shoulder when I'm actually doing some things here. And this is actually me working. I work this time of night. One good thing about owning your own business is that you can sleep in the day and work at night if you want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys actually how to create a marketing list for a hedge fund buyer. So I actually did this for a client of mine over the weekend. So I'm not going to show you guys what I did for his market, but I am going to basically show you the same exact parameters I use in Propstream. So you guys know I like using another cool tool called Investors Title Toolbox, but most people use Propstream. And when I actually looked into it, I haven't used the list pulling feature in almost a year, but it looks like when I looked into it over the weekend, and I've been playing around with it more and more often. I'm liking what I see, and I'm not saying it's a bad tool or anything. I'm not getting down on it. My whole thing is just like I've been using one tool, Investor Title Toolbox, formerly Rebo Gateway, or vice versa. I've been using that tool since 2017, and it's gotten me a lot of deal. Not only me, but it's gotten my clients deals as well. So I have a lot of use cases for it. I have a lot of people that come back and say, "Hey, man, I was able to close X amount of deals. I pulled 50,000 records in there." I don't have a lot of people saying I pulled 50,000 records in Propstream. So it's just very difficult for me to completely switch what I'm doing to test this out because I'm actually wholesaling. So, we have real life stakes over here. I can't just sit here and say, I'm going to just like not, I'm just going to experiment with Propstream. I'm 8 years into this. I'm not going to do that. So, some people play around with this. I don't. But with all that being said, is I am going to give it a shot here, and I am going to tell you guys that I do like what I see in here. So the biggest thing that we are looking for, guys, and I did not share my screen with you guys. Let me share my screen with you guys. Give me a second. Okay, so I didn't really go over too much there. So the biggest thing that I look for whenever I am starting a list, especially for a hedge fund, is, guys, you need to be able to filter whatever list you're pulling by beds, baths, square footage, and also the year built preferably. So that's the bare minimum. And I'm going to go over here and over to my notepad and just Actually, I'll make a Google. I'll make a Google document here. Give me 1 second. Drive. I'll just make a Google document. Very cool. And this will just be hedge fund. 15 May 2023. Okay, so as I was saying here, the biggest thing as far as the criteria is, guys, these hedge funds like a certain type of property. So I would always err on the safe side. Most of them, like 1,000 square feet as a minimum. Some have a maximum. I think to be safe, you should put a 3,000 square foot cap on your max. All right. Just so you're not getting anything like, you're not getting anything crazy that comes up. The thing is, it's like, it's not like you'll get a lot of properties over 3,000 square foot, but what if you get the one property and the seller is super motivated, and then that's the only lead you have out of your whole campaign, or you get stuck on that lead, you can end up going down a rabbit hole and not even being able to wholesale that to your hedge fund. So I try to work with the general, not the norm, not the exception to the norm here. So I would say also, as a bonus, and this gets into the actual criteria, I overlay to the that I overlay on the hedge funds criteria. And I'm going to clean up these notes as well. So is I try and only target homes that are less than, actually that sit on less than half an acre of a lot. So in square feet, that is acre is a square foot. So that's going to be 0.20, 0.50, so 21. And I'll take it a step further, guys. And I actually just started doing this year because I kept this 21,000 square feet on most of my list for over 2 years. But really, I'm at the point now where I'm just going to do a quarter of an acre, because whenever I Google this, what's the average lot size for a house? So it's 14,000 in North Carolina. 10,000. That's closer to a quarter of an acre than closer to half an acre. Of course, Oklahoma's in the middle of nowhere. Of course, it's going to have a half acre. That's the exception to the rule. So the national average is 23,000, but I would say we're not going after rural areas, right? We're going after areas that have houses that are easy to generate comparable sales. And think, if you have a house that's in the middle of nowhere, it's most likely not going to be on a quarter of acre lot. It's most likely going to be on an acre or more. So you just don't want to go down that rabbit hole and even try to work that lead. You don't even want to distract yourself. There may be something there, but you end up losing your focus, focusing on that rather than focusing on the norm, right? Something you create a system around, something that's easy to wholesale, right? Because it's going to take as much work to contract a house in a neighborhood that's a good deal, that's going to get you a $20,000 spread, as a rural property that's going to take you 5 months to sell wholesale, and you may get a $5,000 spread. So just do yourself a favor ahead of time and be more strategic. On top of that, too, you don't want to throw away leads, right? Whenever a lead comes in my CRM, I don't throw anything away because every lead fits my criteria, because I do this ahead of time. The only reason why I'm not contracting in those leads, or majority of them, is they're not ready to sell, right? But everything about the properties, physical characteristics, even the seller's ballpark, even the seller situation. I don't have sellers with messy situations because I don't target messy lists. I don't target probates. I don't target inherited lists. I don't target pre-foreclosures. I don't target tax delinquents. Guys, those are messy lists. Those are messy sellers. So guess what? If it's just you working those leads, that's fine, but it's very difficult building a system around that, building a team. You're going to have an expert acquisitions manager every single time every single time they're calling one of the leads. If you have a list that has a messy situation, now you can make money off of those, and I do agree with people saying that. With some people saying that, hey, I only target those to get deals. That's fine, but if you talk to them, they probably are only doing this themselves. It's not a company. It's really just them. I wouldn't say it's a hustle because that's sort of demeaning what they're doing. They're basically just a specialist. That's all they're doing. For me, I like taking vacations. Now, when I first started, it wasn't that big of a deal because I just wanted to get a deal and to make some money so I can leave my 9-to-5 job. I couldn't stand it. So I did what I had to do. But now, especially guys, once you hit that 3-year mark, you're going to be wanting to get some of your time back, right? I wouldn't even say the 3-year mark. I would say once you've closed at least 40 to 50 deals. You've been to the closing table, you left, been there, left, you dealt with every single scenario that could be thrown at you in real estate wholesaling. And I have some stories. I'm sure you guys do too. But once it becomes more monotonous to you, not saying you're ungrateful for it, because I'm grateful for every dollar. I got a deal closing, fingers crossed, tomorrow in Macon, Georgia, with a partner of mine, 2 partners of mine actually. But once you get to that point, you're going to be wanting to step back from the business. So it's better to do that ahead of time when you are motivated to be in your business than to get to the point like I was, where you're sort of tired of the business and then you're trying to put things together out of necessity, not because you want to. So that's a very important point here. Okay, cool. And let me know if you guys have any questions. So let me see. Actually, guys, I think I was trying to share my. Let me share my screen with you guys. I was trying to share my. Oh, I need to share my entire window. So you guys can't see my notes. Okay, one second. Again, for you guys that are just joining, I'm new to this software that I'm using here. But okay. All right. So I just have to remember to switch my screen back and forth. Okay, so here are my notes so far. Let me zoom in a little bit. Okay, cool. Try this bigger. All right, sweet. Let's jump into it. So, guys, hedge funds on like certain types of properties, their minimum to err on the side of caution is the square feet. You like to have 1,000. Some have a maximum, so you should have a maximum of 3,000 just in case. We want to just have unwanted. We're all about eliminating unwanted properties. Okay, as a bonus, and this gets into the actual criteria that I overlay in a hedge fund. Okay, I try and only target houses that sit on half an acre lot. I'm going to change this, like I just said, to a quarter of an acre. I want to do a quarter of an acre. right? In square feet, that is going to be 10,890. Right. And I want to show you guys how to put all this criteria in Propstream. We'll get to market selection here in a second. I want to make a note here before I forget. Oh, and the cool thing is, guys, when you use this, it pretty much works for any hedge fund. So the only thing you have to do at that point is just find a contact. Can't help you really there, guys. I've for my company, or how I have my wholesaling company set up now, is just through JV partnership. So I'm the marketing JV partner. So I don't do anything when it comes to dispo or acquisitions. I'm telling you guys, I have a deal I'm closing tomorrow, completely hands off. I think it's a $17,000 assignment fee, and my percentage is 20%. And it's completely hands off because my partner, he did all the acquisitions and dispo. So he's getting paid 40%, so 30% for acquisitions, dispo, plus his 10% split of the partnership, and our partner's getting paid 40%. He actually did nothing except just respond to emails and pay invoices. So hopefully we're going to be getting to the finish line with that tomorrow. Fingers crossed. We were going to close a deal last week in Chattanooga, and that deal fell through, and that was sad. Because that would have been our first deal we would have closed with our investor partner program. So that one stung a little bit. But hopefully tomorrow there's going to be our first deal we close. All right, so 1,000 square feet is the minimum. I'll go ahead and just highlight this in green. Boom. Good. Okay, cool. 3,000 as a maximum. All right. If I could get the right color. There it is. Okay. And then beds, baths, 2 and 2. So guys, remember, this is the bare minimum. So this is why I don't like those niche lists, because say you get a code violations list, that's cool. And then and then your hedge fund is like, hey, we only want certain criteria. So on your list, well, usually when you get it from the county, you can't parse it out by beds and baths. You have to be able to use a list pulling tool like Investor Toolbox I use, or either Propstream, like I'm about to show you guys. So the other criteria would be beds, baths. What else, guys? Let me check and see the list I did earlier to make sure I'm not missing out anything. Oh, and another thing too, most of these hedge funds are all in the same markets. So, you don't have to really be concerned if you're in one of those markets if you're not going to generate leads. It's just a matter of your data source, the type of list you're using or you're pulling, and the data source when it comes to the skip tracing. So data source with the list pull and data source with the skip tracing, and making sure you're not in an overly competitive market, because some of these guys are in the retail market. So you want to make sure you're in a relatively wholesale friendly market. So if they're in Austin, Texas, or Dallas, I probably wouldn't go there, because those people are more like affluent. Even if they're not in affluent areas, they are affluent-minded individuals. So I would go to somewhere like a Birmingham, or maybe what's another area they like? Tampa, Florida, Jacksonville. The Florida markets are really good, minus Miami and South Florida. But most of the hedge funds aren't in there because that's too high price. So, I almost forgot. Year built. I knew I felt like I was forgetting something. The year built. Most of them are at 1965, 1970. So I would say, guys, to err on the side of caution, do 1970, because then you give yourself little margin of error. On behalf of the county, not your fault, for the tax information. Incorrect. No, I haven't seen this a lot, but who knows? I just would say erring on my side of caution. And then once you see that, you mark it to your list, and then you wholesale a deal to the hedge fund. Then maybe you could go back and go to 1965, or they may say, "Hey, we will accept those types of deals." But I know for a fact that they don't want 2 bedrooms and they don't want 1 baths. Like, so 1 beds are a no-go. Some of them take 2 bedrooms, but why would you want to do that? Like, guys, you want to be realistic and not make exceptions specifically for the hedge funds when it comes to how much time you spend on pulling the marketing list. Now, I made a mistake before and did that, right? So I actually ended up, I'll stop sharing. So I actually ended up in 2017 finding a hedge fund called Conrex, and they were based in Charleston and in Columbia. So I had a guy I was working with. His name was Brandon. Forgot Brandon's last name, but he was basically like the realtor for the wholesalers. He wasn't a realtor, but basically all the deals flew through him. Yep, you're built. Thanks, Derek. Yeah. So basically all the deals flew through him. And so this was something I shouldn't have done. And it was a lesson I learned, and I'm glad I'm talking about this because I can share it with you all. You don't want to base your whole campaign around these guys, right? So don't think if they say, "Hey, we're only in these neighborhoods," and they give you a map and it only seems like they would be a buyer for you. Let's just say they say, "Hey, we want to go after properties," and the year built was 2010 to 2015. Okay. I might say, all right, that's like rolling the dice. I might throw in maybe 20% of those records inside of my list, but I'm not going to throw in, guys. I'm not going to throw in or pull a whole list of houses built in 2010 or to now. Guys, that is a no-go, because what I ended up doing is I overexerted myself with my business partner. I ended up getting a list of hedge fund markets from Conrex. We ended up going to like 7 markets at once. And guys, we spent, I remember it like yesterday, we dropped like $7,000 on a credit card. It was a Discover card, and marketed to it. And we didn't have any lead managers in place, no VAs, nothing at all. It was just me and an acquisitions manager. We were training, but we were learning acquisitions ourselves. That was 2017. So I was only 2 years into real estate at that point. So the whole thing ended up blowing up in my face. I think we may have wholesaled 1 deal out of that, but it was in a market that was right down the street from us. We ended up pulling back. I ended up like walking away like a wounded dog, to be honest, and sort of just sitting there reflecting on my mistakes for about 2 months. And it's unfortunate because during those 2 months, guys, I didn't do any marketing. I just basically sulked. And that was May. So that was later in the year. So that was like October-ish. And it was a bad way to end the year on. So all that to say is we ended up losing $7,000. I think we made a wholesale deal, but it was next year. So we got a seller out of that batch. Her name was Joetta, but that was somebody who we already was working from a Charleston lead, and she was on a Columbia list that we were pulling for the hedge fund anyway. So it's not really like it was a new lead. It was already in the CRM. She just responded back to another letter that we had to re-engage us. So, sometimes you got to cut your losses, and it was an expensive lesson learned. So another lesson learned from that was that, if you're going to go virtual, try to do it in a safe location, like an hour away from you first, possibly, unless you have a good network. But I found it very comforting being able to drive like an hour and a half away to Columbia. And this is after I pulled back. So after I pulled back, I went virtual again, but not just for the hedge fund. I made sure I was pulling lists for other types of sellers or other types of buyers too, because that hedge fund, they were dragging their feet. A lot of times that guy, he didn't get back to me quickly. And so as a result, guys, guess what? I was trying to chase him down, and I looked hungry and desperate. And so there were a lot of times where he was our only buyer, or we were only going through him. We didn't have a direct contact through the hedge fund. And most hedge funds like it like that, guys, because you got to think, if there was a hedge fund list that was easy to find, everybody and their mom knew wholesaler would have it. And these guys would be bombarded with a whole bunch of deals that aren't deals. And really, they'd be competing against themselves too, because they're probably doing their own marketing. So it behooves them to go through legitimate companies. Most of them only like dealing with companies that are brick and mortar, right? So we got preferential treatment in Charlotte when I was working as a marketing director for a company there, because we had a brick and mortar office. We were one of the few wholesalers in the state, let alone in the city, let alone the state in North Carolina, that actually had a physical office. So guess what? The hedge fund manager, not the manager, but the hedge fund representative could come to the office, right? Because he lived in Charlotte. These are important things. So, I try to be balanced here and speak to my audience, because my audience is diverse. And I try to give you guys information based on, hey, I want to get a deal now, but I also know you guys want to be able to scale as well. A lot of people came in this industry when I came in, and they're at where I'm at. And so they want to learn and know the things that I'm doing. And so, but a lot of people aren't there right now. So I try to speak to everybody. If you guys have any questions, feel more than free to drop them in the comments. But let's go ahead and go back to the criteria. Then I am going to go to Propstream. So, okay, so year built, guys, let's just go ahead and say 1970 as a year built, okay? Okay. 1970, I like that as a minimum. And as a max, this isn't really a hedge fund criteria. This is just to make sure you're not pulling people that bought their houses. You're marketing to them that they built their houses this year. That would suck. Especially if you're in an area that had a whole bunch of new construction. I mean, imagine if you market to a whole neighborhood that is all new, 500 homeowners, and your list is 2,000 records. That's like a quarter of your list, guys, or 2,000 records. No, 2,000 records won't be a quarter, but either way, it'll be a large chunk of your list, basically what I'm saying. And I've done that before. So as a maximum, I would just say put in 1999. I love 1999. Guys, so this is a good measure to know if you're in a decent market as well. If you see that there are a lot of homes that come up, if you put, hey, I only want to see properties that were built in 1999. The year built. Very important here. And also, I find this is a good sort of stopping point for the old versus the new, right? People that are still holding on to these houses right here, even if they're absentee, they probably, 50% of the time they have a relative in there that's not paying them anything for the house, or they're underpaying them for rent, or they have a tenant in there that's underpaying for rent. You don't have people that are really tied to these houses like that. So I'm going to go and talk about my criteria I put on top of this. And I promise I'm about to go into Propstream. It'll all make sense here once I lay this out first. So my criteria, guys, I love doing $100,000 or less as the original purchase price or last purchase price. Guys, I want to tell you something. I pulled a lot of lists in Investor Title Toolbox. So this is mainly what I do for my consulting company. And I'll show you guys here. Okay, cool. So you guys can see that. So I'm going to show you guys something here. Still logged in. Okay. So before I make this point, I have to show you guys this. So look at all these saved searches. I'm going to run through these so you guys don't see the names. All these are client lists that I've done. And guys, I mean, some of these that are connected together, like Brady, this is all one client. It's all one client. This is all one client. Guys, each of these clients have paid me $1,000 each. Some of them more, right? So my Baltimore clients have paid me close to, like, for one list pool, like $7,000, and they were paying that a month. So, and then initially, so you guys can see going back to 2018, that's when I first started using this tool, or using this account. Before that, I was using this, but it was a different account. But this was my account. But I was doing like absentee lists. You guys see here with the county absentee. I was doing a tax delinquent list. I could still pull these here in here, but I was getting limited quantity, right? So high equity, all this stuff. Over time, guys, what I found is that this is a more motivating criteria than any other criteria that I've seen that you can apply to a list and still get a large quantity of records. Okay, so I'll run that back. What I mean by that is, if you have a list and you say, I only want to see the houses that were bought for $100,000 or less, I can't think of any other criteria you could put on that where you could get a lot of homeowners, right? I'm not talking about 100 homeowners or 200 or even 1,000, 3,000, like with code violations, maybe even 20,000, but that's one drop. You can get 100,000 records in one market MSA with this criteria. And this is more of a motivating criteria than an absentee filter. And guys, it's 2023. There are more lists to pull than absentee, code violations, pre-foreclosure, tax delinquent. Guys, the list goes on. And guys, these lists are junky and difficult to deal with. On top of that, I cannot determine the volume of it from the county nor timeline consistently. All right, so basically what I'm saying here is that I can't go to the county and get this in the same format every single time. So imagine if it's just me and my VA is not really good at, or maybe it's just a VA and she's not really good at Excel. Even if she's good at Excel, we get the list in PDF format. Are you going to sit there like I did in 2015, take that list and go step by step and put each record in PDF from the PDF in Excel? Guys, that's a waste of time. It's really a waste of time. Now, I would do that for certain lists. If you get your hands on a fire damage list, absolutely. Maybe water shut off. Maybe it's not abatement. What's the name of the list? It's like abandoned structures. So it's the ones that where the county state that the actual structure is just abandoned. You can't do any. You can't. It's not livable. That one's updated relatively frequently because it has to be by the code violations department. So people know which structures to avoid or not. And those usually are scheduled to tear down. Sometimes you can't even do anything with them, but sometimes you find a gem. But even then, guys, those are only like 100 to maybe 300 records per list. And even then, you don't know what you're dealing with whenever you get this. You get that and you could have 100 errors on it. So you're going to stop everything you're doing to try to contact all 99 other people on the deed. You know, guys, that stuff you do when you're first starting, if you don't really know what you're doing, to be honest, because I was about to say, if you don't really have that much money to spend on this, but to be honest, guys, it's really, if you know what you're doing, you don't have to spend that much, right? Just be resourceful. I mean, seriously, guys, join every Facebook group you can, join every Discord chat, follow people on TikTok. I know a lot of people drop information there because people are trying to go viral on there. So there's competition for people to put out good content consistently. guys, really the days of pulling this stuff, you're going to be competing with everybody else. And this is just why I've seen a lot of people have mistakes over and over and over and over again. And also, too, this is why some people are good for a month or two, but then after that third or fourth month, they don't know what to do. They actually think their market's becoming competitive, and it's not. They just weren't strategic whenever they pull their list. That's why I pull my list by zip code. So I look at all the zip codes in my market. Once I see all the zip codes in my market, then I know I can go line by line and say, okay, for this month, I have to pull in 7 zip codes in order to get 10,000 records, because I know that'll generate me at least 50 to 75 leads. The next month, I may go from the high density zip codes to maybe like medium density to rural zip codes. Still, there'll be motivated sellers there, but I may need more zip codes to target. So I may need 15 at that point. So that'll get me to month 2. But let's just say I have 200 zip codes, like I'm in Houston, Texas. I could plan out a whole year's worth of marketing for that MSA. I won't have to deviate from it, and I will have more than enough data to target every single month with good criteria, hedge fund criteria, because I've done this before in Houston. And guess what, guys? I won't have to, oh my gosh, I forgot the point I was going to make. Literally, it was about the tip of my tongue. I was going to say I can market it to Houston. It'll come back to me. But the point I'm saying here, guys, is that you don't want to be competing with everybody else, and you want to make sure you have longevity in your market. So the point I was going to make was that if you go line by line, zip code by zip code, you have more data than you actually think than if you just went through all these lists. Let's just say this list gets you 20,000 records. This gets you 20. This gets you 10. This gets you 20,000. And that takes you to like 4 months or 5 months. But after that, you may target those lists for another 3 to 4 months, and you are done with. And you're like, what do I do after that? Guys, you have to be more methodical. So my whole thing is, what if I can target a lot of records that are as motivated as these, but I have more records to target? And guys, over the years, and that's why I was showing you guys all these lists I was pulled for my clients. Over the years, guys, I realized that this criteria right here, this 100,000, that's it right there. I mean, there's very few criteria that I've used that's better than this. I mean, this is my minimum for every single list I pull. And guys, it works to this day. I've been using it since 2017, 2018. I had a guy that hit me up last week over Facebook, and he said, man, that list that you got, man, we have a deal that's closing. He's up in New Jersey. So yeah, guys, it's working. I put this criteria here. Now, if you could use 100,000 and throw absentee on top of it, that's even better. But I view this criteria better than that. Now, one thing I do is this. I also do total outstanding loans underneath 100K, and first loan amount, if you can, underneath 100K. So the reason why I use total outstanding loans underneath 100,000 is because we don't want people that are are over the $100,000 amount. I don't know how else to say that. So yeah, we don't want people that are over this 100K amount, guys. We don't want them that. We also don't want them to be underwater. All right. So what I found is that there's a inverse relation here. If somebody paid less for their house, they're going to be more motivated, right? So if somebody paid 100,000 for their house, they're going to be more motivated than somebody who paid 200 for their house. Because you got to think, people lead with their pocket. So if I pay 200, or let's just say $500,000 for my house, to make this extreme, the current house I live in, but the first house I lived in, I paid 100,000, and that house is 30 minutes away. I'm probably not going to go check on it as much. Maybe the first year I'm away, maybe the second year, but after 4 or 5 years, probably not. I'm probably going to enjoy my new $500,000 house in my nice country club with my new $500,000 friends. I'm not going to want to go to that $100,000 house. And guys, I'm being honest, This isn't just for people that are just distressed. That's another thing, guys. That whole distressed, motivated seller thing, like, yeah, that's not a thing anymore. We want cooperative sellers, right? And cooperative sellers are realistic. So somebody who paid $100,000 house, they're not going to ask for $500,000 for a house. Especially if they bought it in 1999. They're just not. So every single lead that comes in my CRM is a seller that just needs to say yes. I don't have people that come in there and like, oh, this person asked for 300,000. No, because this is a deal breaker for me. I've also seen that it's easier to negotiate with people and get a larger deduction in negotiations with somebody who bought their house for 100K than somebody who bought it for more than that. Like, let's just say 150K, 200K. If I tell somebody, man, that house, I'm going to need that for 50K, and they bought it for 100, they're going to say, man, they might be shocked, but they're not going to be offended. They might act offended, but they're over time, they take a shower, they take a shot, they're going to be like, yeah, man, you're realistic about that thing. It's probably 50K. I'm not going to sell it for 50K, but I can see where you're coming from. Versus if somebody bought their house for 200K, you're asking for the same percentage reduction to $100,000. Guys, why even do that to yourself? Why? You see, it's just something about the psychology of the seller. When you go over that $100,000 mark, it's like things change. It's like $100,000 to $500,000. Those people are the same type of person. But if somebody bought their house for $20,000, or if it's a lot, to 100K, they're the same. Now, that's why I don't target markets. This goes into market selection. That are significantly higher than the national average. Right? So I don't target markets that are significantly higher than the national average, meaning I don't I think the Q2 actually Q1 Q1 national home sale prices were in 2023 were 436,000, right? So you won't catch me targeting a market where the home prices are above this amount. And guys, this is just for wholesaling. So notice I'm not talking I don't talk very passionately about these markets because we're just talking about wholesaling. If we're talking about rentals and things like that, we'd have to be a little bit more strategic. But guys, a house is a house is a house, right? All this stuff about location. As long as it has the right parameters and there's people buying, you will be able to make money. And then your job is just to make sure that your list is correct. Really, finding buyers, that's the easy part. I go in most of these markets blind. I went into every single market I'm going into right now. I have 4 markets I'm in with my partners. I'm not going to name them, but I'll name the states. We're in Georgia, Tennessee, Arkansas. Oh, what's the other one? We're in one more. I forgot. But anyway, those 4 markets, guys, we the market selections we chose were very dependent on that national average. We actually targeted markets that were half of that. So we went to micro MSAs, so not even major MSAs, and where the national average was half of where the home values were half of the national average. So it's 436 right now. And that was in Q1 2023 of this year. So what we ended up doing, going to micro MSAs, so low competition from other wholesalers, because wholesalers are always behind. I don't care if my buyer's there, you want buyers there, with increasingly high buyer activity. So just think last year in May, there were 20 homes sold. This year, there are 100. So we scouted markets like that, where last year there were like 20 homes sold, and this year there were 100, because we know wholesalers are always behind. But if there are homes sold there, that means, and there's 100, they're not all going to be new construction, not all going to be cash buyers, right? There's going to be an equal mix of retail buyers as well, FHA. So those are safe to go to. So once you look at that, you have the volume. At that point, it's just reverse engineering and figuring out, okay, what type of properties do these guys want, right? Without talking to them. So I can tell you guys just from my experience exactly what they want without talking to them. That's the name of the game. The name of the game is to pivot. I've seen too many people stay in the same market, especially if they're wholesaling virtually. They don't, but they're like, oh, I have this attorney I talked to, or I got to know the market. And guys, I get it. It takes some time to learn the market. You got to be in the market to understand it, but don't be sold on the market too soon, right? Pull your 10,000 records or half of that. Go in there, see if the sellers are cooperative. If you put this criteria in here, and I'll go to Propstream. You put this criteria in your list pool, and I'll do Birmingham, Alabama, because I know that's a big time hedge fund market. So if you put this criteria in your list pool, pulling software, and you're not getting that many people up, you pull it, you call it, and the people aren't cooperative, and you're targeting people that bought their houses underneath 100,000, you might have targeted an area where the market is the home sold volume and prices are too high. Not the home sold volume, but the prices are too high. So let's just say they bought their house for 100,000, and this was 30 years ago in a certain part of California, and now you'd be hard pressed to find anywhere underneath 500K in California, even in the desert. Who knows? But let's just say you did that, and you're like, okay, I'm targeting these people. They all bought their house for 100,000. All of them should be motivated, but now the houses are worth close to 700,000. Okay, when you call all those people, most likely when you call them, they're not going to be cooperative. They're going to say, oh yeah, I want $1 million, this, that, and a third, because they realize what they're sitting on. It reminds me of Charleston County, where I grew up. In Charleston, you guys, people were notorious for that. Their neighbors, and rightfully so, they got lucky. They were in an area downtown that, basically was blowing up. Lots of tourists, lots of people turning to have their house in an Airbnb, and you have the college there. And that was getting more nationally known during the time where I started real estate. So you had people that bought their houses like in 2000 for 100,000, and now they can easily sell them in horrible condition for 500,000. There's no talking those people down. So think market selection could be a reason why your campaign bombs. You're talking to every single seller, and you don't even have one that's like willing to play ball in your price range. They're just like completely, you guys aren't even talking the same language. It's like you're calling people and they own houses on golf courses. So I found that I want to be able to eliminate, my whole thing is I want to be able to eliminate the possibility of me wasting my money on a bad marketing campaign. And this, guys, to this day, this sucks. I don't do this to gamble. And honestly, if I didn't look at my marketing like this, I would feel like I was, even if I was successful. So even if I was successful, I was like making, like if I was spending like 10K and making 30K, if I didn't know why I was successful at doing that, that would bother me. And I've that's happened before, because eventually my luck ran out, and yours will too. And to me, it doesn't feel like a business. It just feels like I'm gambling if I say, oh yeah, let me just go to Propstream and just pull a list and just do that without even taking into consideration, hey, what's going to happen the next month or the month after that when I don't know which list to pull because I wasn't organized. Now I'm afraid to skip trace data because I pulled 30,000 records at once, and I don't know what I pulled, what I skip traced, and now I just don't want to stay in the market at all. And I only targeted niche data, and I didn't go by zip code. Now I think there's no opportunity to get a deal under contract. Basically, there's no opportunity in the market, and thus no opportunity to get a deal under contract. So I've been there before, guys. We don't want to do that. Let's see if I have any questions here. Okay. Okay, nice. So Jamal Lockhart said, "I'm already tapped down." Oh, so he's part of the Investor Syndicate and Colorado Real Estate Hub. He has 6 funds, 7 buy boxes. Yeah, let's have a conversation because I'm actively probably doing marketing in those areas you're at, and honestly, it'll be good to have another contact like you. I'm going to save your name, Jamal, because we had a deal fall. I just don't like dealing with individual buyers, guys. I don't like dealing with them. Like the whole reason why my Chattanooga deal fell through was because the seller went into the attorney's office, and we used the buyer's attorney. And one thing, guys, you should never use the buyer's attorney, especially if it's virtual. You should always use your own attorney first, right? If you're just now working with that buyer. But guys, our seller went into the attorney's office. This was like not this past Friday, but 2 Fridays ago. Went to the attorney's office and was trying to see about the closing. Now we're virtual. All my partners are in North Carolina. One of them is across the country, and the deal was in Chattanooga. And the buyer's attorney is supposed to be representing the seller, but see, they ended up escalating the conversation, made the seller feel like they were stupid. So they ended up getting mad. And just like that, we were this close to closing. It was going to be a $15,000 assignment, and the deal blew up in our face. So all I'm saying, guys, it's a lot easier to work with hedge funds. Me personally, guys, I would say this personally, but not Cornelius Garland, the real estate investor, but CC Garland leveling with you. I'm not a huge fan of the game they're playing right now. I do think that individual people are going to get screwed over, and it's going to be too late if they don't wake up and see this huge grab. But at the same time, play ball. You know, we're all adults out here. So, and if we can make money doing this, we can. And I'm just glad that there's a lot more opportunities as Cornelius Garland, an investor now. I'm just glad there's more opportunities for more investors to wholesale to hedge funds, because it was really hard to get in contact with these guys whenever I first started. So, all right. So guys, let's go ahead and go into Propstream. I'm going to take about maybe like 20 more minutes of your time here. So let's do Birmingham, Alabama. And I like doing it by county. I think it's Jefferson County. Okay, so yeah, it's Jefferson County. Cool. So I'm I'm actually not taking my advice now. I'm doing it by county, and I will pull a list here for you guys at some point, probably this week, where I update all the zip codes. But that takes a long time, and you could just be sitting there looking at me for an hour. So. Okay, so I have 513. So I have some criteria on here from before. Now, in Propstream, this is a criteria I would use, and I'm always testing my tools, guys, just to make sure the data is always good. Really, I'm testing Investor Title Toolbox data versus Propstreams, but Propstream's looking nice these days. I'm not going to lie. So usually they only like single family residences. Make sure you always have individual. And here you got 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, 1,000 to 3,500. That my client that I put a list for, I was verifying this in here, and I actually did it. We wanted 3,500. So I usually would do 3,000. And actually, I would do 1,100. Jamal or anybody else, they can chime in if you watch this later in the comments, just with if you see this criteria being more or less. I've actually seen 1,100 be more common. So I would actually just start there, guys. And to be honest, if you guys want to pull a list this is your first ever list you're pulling on Propstream, it will be safe to pull this type of list, because then if you can't move it to a conventional buyer, a hedge fund may come through. And guys, maybe not now because they tightened up their criteria for this year, as far as I know. But guys, last 2 years they were like buying stuff at 95 cents on dollar, like retail. It may have taken them like 60 days to close, and they would go out. Some of them go out. Most of them go out and do the inspection for you. Just go out and do the inspection, guys, and they know everything to say to the tenant if they have a tenant there. Like they know not to say that the homeowner selling the house. It's just you don't need boots on the ground. There's so many advantages to selling with hedge funds, but I wouldn't put all your eggs in one basket though, right? It could be one of those type of things where you find it and you're like, oh, this is too good to be true, and you end up just trying to get fixated, and that's the only thing you want to do. Take it from me, I would hedge your bets. No pun intended. Hedge your bets and target other areas, that they may not be in. Target other areas that you have more buyers and buyers that have bought from you before, rather than experimenting on some of these guys, because some of these guys are knuckleheads. Or they could come back and do the old, yeah, man, we could pay your 30K assignment, and then a day later or a day before closing, they say, oh, we can close this thing, but you're only going to have to take 5K on the assignment. So just there's pros and cons to everything. So guys, 1965, I'm going to go ahead and do 1970, and then I'm going to do 1999. This is my personal filter. This isn't theirs. I like having 1999 as a year built, because what I also like doing is doing the ownership of, and this is what I mean by keeping my data clean. I pull my list very cleanly. I don't change a lot of these parameters, because number one, I know what works in each market. This could be copy and pasted. And if I had a hedge fund that had 10 markets, I could copy and paste the same criteria. There's no need to switch it up, right? And I can expect the same amount of records. That's a good thing, because imagine if you are in Birmingham and they want to be in Tampa as well. Like, let's just say they're down there in Pinellas, Hernando County, Hillsborough, and you're able to get 20,000 records in Jefferson, but all in code violations, but you're only able to get 5,000 in Tampa. Then you're in a dilemma where you're wasting time trying to get more data. It's just, you end up just going down a dark path, of wasting time. Okay. Okay. So I like having the date here. So I'm going to do this should be 1/1, not 1 December. Should be January 1st, 1970 is what should be here. Okay. And then I have the January 1st, 1999. I know a lot of people will say, well, don't you want to cover the whole year of 1999? Yes, guys, but because technically this is to December 31st, 1998, but who's counting? And on top of that, I like having it clean. I don't like having all my lists having all these crazy funky parameters on it. And then on top of that, too, I could test over time. So if I keep this the same in each market, and this is why I know it works in each market, because I've used this for the last 4 or 5 years. I've just built on this with clients, and clients have come back and be like, hey, I got 2 deals off of that. I got 3 deals off of it. Well, I personally closed 2 to 3 deals off of it. So right now I'm in optimization. I'm not in changing mode. Okay. So guys, they like 3 bedrooms. They like 2 baths, single family residences, 1100, 1970, 1999, individual ownership, meaning we're not targeting trust and we're not targeting LLC owners. Right. Last sale date, 1/1/1970 to 1999, which falls in line with the year built. So all this is clean. And then the last sale price is $100,000 or less. So I'm going to stop here, guys. I don't like what I'm seeing. And I'll tell you what I think is going on here. I think Birmingham has been pilfered and savaged, and I think wholesalers have just eaten it and just left the bone, eaten all the meat off the bone and barely left the bone. Because you have 377 owners right here. Okay. 377. Give me 1 second, guys. I'm just going to keep my video off for one moment, guys. Okay, so let's go ahead and go back to Propstream here. So, okay, so like I said, guys, I already see Jefferson County here, and I'm not liking what I see. So you see this 377 right here. I mean, there should be more properties here. And a good way to test this is I'm going to do the same criteria, but in Hillsborough County and Tampa. Okay, so look guys, so this is very important because this can save you time, energy, and effort. And also this could drive our decisions with where we're going. Right? Where if I'm trying to decide, should I market to Birmingham or should I market to Tampa, Hillsborough County, Florida, this should already tell you. Guys, literally in Jefferson County, and this is where Birmingham actually is. So we only have 377 properties. 377, guys. Okay, I'm going to check out Richmond in a second, D. All right, let me say. Okay, I'm glad you're enjoying the information, D. So let's do Richmond, VA. So I like doing it by county, guys. So Richmond, VA County. Oh, yeah, I forgot. So, okay, yeah, it's an independent city. Richmond is surrounded by Henrico County. That's right. Virginia is different. They don't really have counties like that. So I'll do Richmond, VA, or D. Okay, so 62. So guys, I'm not saying I'm going to pull all these records here or that I'm even going to change the filters, but let's just say I didn't have this last sale price here, our open mortgage balance, and this is the total outstanding loans right here. So somebody could have bought their house for $100,000, but they got owed $500,000. I can show you right here because this number 62 will jump up once I move this to 500,000. The 83, not very much, but even then, that proportionally, if this was like 10,000 records, that's quite a bit. So we just want to save ourselves that headache because we don't even want to deal with those 20 or so properties that came up, right? So we don't want to deal with those 20 or so properties that came up that we can't even do anything with. So I'm going to keep that 100,000. And notice I don't have equity here, guys. Dollar amount. Equity, I can't tell you the last time I used equity filter. Dollar amounts. You could have somebody who has a free and clear house and their house is worth $1 million. You think that house, that person's going to be motivated to sell? Because at that point, you should put an assessed value. Hey, I only want to see houses that are assessed at a certain dollar amount. Right? I'm not sure where that. Oh yeah, valuation. So you may say, hey, 100,000. I don't like that filter either. See, because it's not guaranteed. So you might as well just do the open and remaining balance, and then the first last sale price, which is basically the first loan amount if they had a loan or if they paid for cash. So I'm not liking what I see here. So let's go to Cobb County. Maybe my criteria is too strict. Henry County, Georgia. Okay, 1,091, Fulton. And what you guys can do as well is, guys, you can always do this. You can always, if that hedge fund has 20 markets, And I'm going to show you guys a strategy here. So let's be strategic here, because I want to actually leave you guys with something that you can apply. It's strategic here. So if your hedge fund gives you a list of 20 markets and you're only getting about 1,000 properties and Propstream per market, then you can do this. You can pull 1,000 records in 10 markets and combine it in one list. There's nothing wrong with that. And I'll tell you why. It's because your motivation or consistent, or it's not the consistency, it's the motivation or the, it's like the type of seller. It's the, what am I trying to say? I guess that seller's avatar stays consistent. So one day you're not going to have someone with a probate property where you need to do a quiet title suit. And the next day, the lady is in pre-foreclosure. It has 10 days to rectify her past due loan balance. Guys, all this stuff can make you feel like you don't have a legitimate company. It can make you feel like your company's everywhere. It's like your company doesn't have a theme. Right? It's like it doesn't have a theme or particular niche it serves. Right? I know, guys, for example, I took pride in being the land guy, right? The land / infill lot guy in my area. Nobody was wholesaling cheap lots. So I basically was able to market to every seller in my targeted neighborhoods, and they'd only sell to me. So that's very important, guys. It's just like you want to make sure you have a consistent avatar that you're targeting, because when you're training your team, and this is why a lot of people have trouble handing off acquisitions. I've talked to countless investors whenever I consult them, and we're on consulting calls, and they say, "Man, CC, I'm trying to systematize my acquisitions department, but I'm the acquisitions person. How do I hand that off if I'm the expert?" And the reason why, guys, is because sometimes our marketing is too complicated. Right? So if you don't complicate your marketing, meaning you have like one type of seller that you're going after, you keep your criteria the same, then your team is going to know what to expect when the leads come in. Yeah, you're going to have some one-off properties here and there, but you're not going to have a property where you're like, oh man, this deal could be a big land deal, and you're going to go down a rabbit hole trying to get an easement for the land. You're trying to make the darn land. You might, take out some money to try to make the land more appealing to, a lot developer. You might go visit the county. You're basically just wasting time, not doing business, actually wasting time and not getting any closer to getting a deal closed or talking to more sellers. It's actually taking you away from talking to sellers. So some people would say, well, there could be something there, but think about all the time you're going to spend and all the focus you're going to lose by going down a random rabbit hole. So I find it best to make sure my criteria from the get-go doesn't even allow me to go down those rabbit holes. Very important stuff here. Okay. So owner type individual. It's important last sale date. So you can do that, guys. Now, what I'm going to do, and this is why I use the Investor Title Toolbox. This is a heavyweight here, guys. This is a heavyweight. I'm going to go do an area search and show you guys something here. See Orange County, Florida. Okay, so this is why market selection is important too, because here in Florida, and this was actually part of the area that I pulled for my client, but this is just to make a point here, is that this area gave me 3,800 sellers, so this tells me that's not untapped. And the reason why I could tell, guys, is because from 1970 to 1999, these are what I call blue collar homes. So I don't know what people are calling them now, or if you guys have heard this phrase, but blue collar homes are basically houses that look like this. They're like one story, rancher type homes, built between 1970 and 1985 ish, right? In Florida, maybe stucco, right? But in most other places, brick veneer possibly, but definitely all this one story style in a neighborhood, not in the middle of nowhere, not in the middle of a gated community, nothing like that, right? This is probably the nicest that they'll look on the outside, right? Most of your houses should look like this, and this tells me these are flip houses. These are houses that could be flipped all freaking day, up and down, right? You'd be hard pressed on any of my lists to find houses that look really different from this, really, really bad, are really, really good. Now that looks tacky. Ugh, can't pay me over there. Okay, let me see if we have any questions. I'm gonna go back to Richmond here and just see if I can find anything else, because I think it was Henrico. Let me see if there's anything else here in Henrico County. Only 142. So guys, that tells me that all the blue collar properties were bought up. Look, that tells me that all the properties in 1997 or after got bought up. Now, if I do the same criteria for 1999 and 2010, I would probably get a lot of houses. Let's see. Right. Wait a second. Something's going on with my criteria here. Well, maybe, guys, it's because it's 100K or less. Let's see. Nope. Let's remove that. Okay, so it looks like that date was. One second. Okay, so it looks like the last sale date was actually stifling me. All right, so I'm going to do this again. So, no. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, so I know what happened here. So this is an area that's actually really affluent, because there's nothing $100,000 or less here. Nothing. So I'm actually going to see Richmond. Actually, let's go to Realtor. I'm going to see the Richmond, Virginia, the market insights. I want to see what homes are sold for. My mistake. I meant to do Redfin. The market is going to be Richmond. Show market insights. So guys, 315,000. So this isn't significantly higher. This isn't even like really close to whatever the national average is. This is 100K off. But for some reason or another, my spidey senses are telling me this is a competitive market, right? If I'm not seeing there's a lot of properties with this criteria, especially that were $100,000 or less, that tells me that I'm going to have to move this criteria probably to 0 to maybe 200,000. All right, 0 to 300,000. But then I probably have to go up to 2010 with the with the last sale date. So let's see here. Oops. Okay, last sale date 1998. We're going to go up to 2010. Okay, and let's do 1 January 2010. Okay, so 637. Even then, it's not a lot of homes. Just for the sake of, I would never go up to 2015, but only 218. So if I take, I'm sorry. So open mortgage remaining balance. I had to take up to 300,000. Even then, guys, just okay. Well, let me go to your bill, 2010 or 2015. Once you have to start changing these parameters around, especially your open mortgage amount and last sale price, your list is going to be less motivated. This is a primary criteria for motivation. There's no other criteria here that designates that's a filter for motivation. I want you guys to really internalize that, please. So whenever I'm pulling my list here, all this is just criteria to make sure I'm pulling it correctly for the hedge fund. And this is my special sauce that allows my list to be motivated. So if I go up to 300,000, the analogy or the example I used earlier, the more somebody paid for their house, the less motivated they're going to be. So if they paid 100K, they're going to be more motivated. If they paid 50K, they're going to be way more motivated if I call them. But if they paid 100K, they're going to be less motivated. If they paid 200, less motivated. 300, less motivated. 400, less motivated. So it almost is worthless even having this filter on here. So this is what you can do is like you want to make sure you don't do this. Try and make the market work. Guys, some markets just absolutely suck for investing. And guys, this goes for wholesaling, flipping. So when I say investing, I mean wholesaling, flipping, and I would say rentals. I wouldn't say short term. Those people they're playing different strategy. Note investing and all that. But if I say investing, I'm meaning wholesaling, flipping, and rentals because unless you're going to the MLS, you're going to be doing the same thing that wholesalers are doing if you're trying to get a flip. You're going to find out, oh man, I don't have any, my realtor's dry. They don't have any deals for me. I need to market. And you're going to be marketing right alongside me if I'm in your market. Same thing if you're getting, I would say long-term rentals. I would say like Burr rentals, buy, rehab, rent, and repeat, I believe, rentals. So these are all in the same boat. All these people are in the same boat. So, whether you look at them like competitors or not, they are. So if you're in a market where it's very saturated and you don't have to be in that market, go somewhere else. So I think that's the lesson here, and I'll stop there. So here's the lesson I'll end with. If you're in a competitive market and you don't have to be there, leave and go somewhere else. And I guess a bonus lesson would be, research your market beforehand. It's like list pulling is really your final step in market preparation. Notice I said market preparation. A lot of people just want to go on with list pull, but list pulling is your final step in market preparation. That and then skip tracing, list pulling, skip tracing, and then the dialer. That's it. But before that, it's market selection, it's zip code selection, it's criteria selection, and then it's your list pull. Then it's your dialer and RAI reply or whatever tool you're using to upload to text message your sellers. And then, guys, and only then, you're actually sending your message out to your seller. So list pulling comes further down the road. If you guys have any questions, I'm going to leave this up here on YouTube as well as on Facebook. So if you guys have any questions or comments or have any other topics you want me to cover, let me know. I always love doing this stuff. And I found that I'm better live. I don't like making videos and editing them sometimes. I like just going live and letting the inspiration flow. So anyway, guys, hope you guys have a blessed week. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate it.